I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is a,
On this
that is a
sad
sad clown.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha packs, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom.
Shout out to our sponsors. Major Team Mortgage, Omaha Laser Dentistry, Exclusively Eye Care, Liberty Core Real Estate, Avior Wealth Management, and Apex Men's Clinic. We appreciate their support.
Yo, Gloom listeners, it's the Plague, and today I'm talking about getting your finances as fit as your physique. Our very own F3 Omaha brother Jean-Claude, aka Michael Pfluger at Avior Wealth Management, specializes in building personalized financial plans. He understands the journey you walk in life as a man of faith, safeguarding your family and creating a legacy. Jean-Claude is ready to help you plan your finances with intention so that you can live with purpose. And that's just the beginning when you work with the Avior Wealth team. Visit avior.com/F3. That's AVIOR.com/F3 and see how Michael can guide your financial journey today.
Now let's get back to the gloom.
And we're back. Excited for another episode of The Gloom. You know, we always get guys that are former site Qs on here, and just love hearing their stories about leadership and just life as they've been going through things. I think I've had a chance to work out next to this guy maybe just a couple times when I get to the East sector, but always have just enjoyed his smile, positive attitude, and I know he's been a phenomenal leader in our region. So I've got our man Good Lookin on today, who was recently a site Q at Beverly Hills. Which is a phenomenal site, by the way. If you haven't been down there, it may be like one of the largest in terms of like geographical footprint, but we can get into that. Good Lookin, where I'd love for you to start us off is just kind of that EH story. Who got you introduced to F3, and then talk us through the first workout. What was that experience like? And then how'd you get the name Good Lookin? It might be obvious to the people watching this, though. I don't know.
No, it would not be. Plague, I appreciate you having me. And sticking on me. I tried to avoid you.
Yeah.
The first time you asked me, the second time you asked me. So appreciate you sticking with me and getting me on here. So Rocket brought me out. We were friends before. When he moved back to Omaha, he actually started dating a really good friend of my wife and I that we went to college with. And we started hanging out a lot. And I think it was at his son's first birthday party. Started talking about, all this weight he lost and what a good place he was in and how much he enjoyed it. And I don't know if he really pushed me, but he was saying, I'm going Monday to Ironwood, and just kind of left it open for me. And I had known a lot of guys in the past. I was a prep and Creighton guy, so there's a lot of guys still in it that I've known and talked about before, but I was just finally at the point where I was ready to join. So Monday, went to Ironwood. I think Dollface was the cue that day, and the workout was crazy. Like, it was a Marine Corps workout that he saw online, and I was extremely out of shape, and somehow I made it through. I don't know. I was definitely modifying everything, and but made it through. Then at the naming, I don't really remember. I was so lightheaded and out of breath that they asked me all the questions, and I have no idea what my answers were. But I know somehow they figured out I worked in the Dundee neighborhood, and by this restaurant called Good Lookin. And
Okay.
Dollface wanted another name similar to his, and I think he was hungry that morning. So
Okay.
that is where I got it. I'm pretty sure I was wearing a mask that day and it's dark, so no one had saw me, or they would have reconsidered for sure. But
What is that restaurant still around?
it is, yeah. If you haven't been there before, it's great. I think they
Okay.
opened up a second one too. So
Oh, nice. And it's
awesome
Good
breakfast
Lookin.
burritos. Yeah, good looking.
Okay. That is awesome. I don't think I ever knew that story. I think I love hearing how guys get named, and it is funny. Like most of the time, the name doesn't relate to anything that you've done or are doing. But have you?
Yep.
How has over time do you like the name? Have you gotten used to it? Where are you at with sort of the name?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty lucky with that name. It's a
Yeah.
good one. I think it's really weird for my wife and my kids when we're at a sporting event and some guy from a different school walks in and yells "good looking" across the court, or walking through the park and there's a minivan, a guy with a family I'm out running, and they just roll down the windows and yell at you. Everyone else in the park is kind of creeped out. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's happened more than probably should have. But
That is
yeah,
funny. I didn't think of that, right? You see at the store and somebody just says, "Hey, good looking," and you're like, "Wait a minute, do they know you from F3, or are they hitting on you? What's the deal?" So that's
yeah. I
funny.
think my favorite is when first time meeting people, this happened downrange and a few times in Omaha, and you're introducing names, and at the end of a workout, some'll come to like, "What's your name?" And I tell them, "Good looking." I'm like, "Oh, I thought you were talking to me." I was like, I thought you were just complimenting me. I didn't know that was your name. Like, oh yeah.
Oh, that's funny. So that first workout, I guess, because I actually just interviewed Hipster and Rocket, and so their story
Oh
is
yeah.
really really cool, right? Because Hipster got into it first, and then Rocket started doing it, and so you knew Rocket from college, is that right?
Actually, our families were kind of like family friends growing up, and we were at high school together, different ages, but kind of knew each other.
Okay.
Then he went away to college and lived in Chicago for a while, and we really became friends when he moved back and started dating a good friend, and now it's his wife and mother of his kids. That's when we became really good friends, started hanging out a lot more.
Nice. What were you doing fitness wise? Were you doing anything at all? Were you running, or because I feel like I see you pre-run a lot now and you're in good shape today. So what was your fitness like before F3?
It was pretty non-existent, especially after, during, and after COVID. I did not do anything. Pre-COVID, I played some pickup basketball and played some sand volleyball. It's probably more drinking than actually playing.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't really call it being athletic, but I was extremely out of shape when I
Mm.
joined F3, and part of the reason for joining it. So
Yeah. What did you play sports in high school or growing up? Were you active in anything like that?
yeah, growing up, I was really active. Grade school, kind of played a little bit of everything: football, basketball, baseball, soccer, just a little bit of everything. High school, I played basketball for a little bit, ran track for a little bit. I ended up doing cross country for
Hmm.
3 years, which is weird because I always hated running. I just did it to kind of like F3, to be around other guys and give me
Yeah.
something to do,
Yeah.
um, and to figure out ways to how to not run during cross country practices. I was getting really good at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, then college, I did a couple intramurals. I played club lacrosse for a year. But I was working a lot, taking a lot of credits, and that kind of just fell by the wayside. And kind of
Mhm.
my sport to go to after that was kind of beer pong and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's kind of where I started getting all the weight and getting out of shape.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned sand volleyball, right? Is that an actual sport or just like a drinking game, right? Definitely was in a league at Barrett's at one time, and it was more drinking than volleyball, that's for sure.
Probably played against you. I was there for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting because there you mentioned, so you went to high school at Prep, right? And
Yeah.
at Creighton Prep, there are, I feel like, a lot of guys throughout F3 Omaha, and Omaha is kind of a small town in general. But so you got started and um you knew Rocket, but did you know other guys, or how did you kind of go about building some of those
Yeah,
friendships?
I think actually my first day, it was Sputnik was there, and we actually were the same grade in high school.
Oh, cool.
And I don't know if I saw him maybe once since high school. So I knew him, and now there's a few other guys in Sarpy and out west, but same grade.
Yeah.
That I've seen around. But then I knew like Sparty. He's a little bit older, but knew him from high school and college and a little bit after. Kind of saw his transformation, and he's he's one of the first guys that mentioned it multiple times, and I talked to about it. But at the point, when we were talking, I was not interested at all joining
Yeah.
F3.
Yeah. What do you think changed that made you interested? Were you just like kind of fed up with how things were, or was there a health thing that occurred, or?
I guess there's probably multiple reasons. I mean, kind of go down the bucket list, mental health, just regular health. You know, I guess summer before I joined, we were camping with the family, and it was me and some friends, and we're trying to play football with the kids. And my kids are young, and I was out of breath really quick, and
Mhm.
like they're too young for me not to be able to keep up with them.
Yeah.
And it's something I really want to do. So it was kind of in my head then, and you know, kind of maybe a month or two later, talking to a friend who's started seeing getting some therapy, met the psychologist that was really helping him out. He's going through a lot of stuff, and we'd get lunch, once a week, a couple times a month, and he's really talking about him. And the more he dug into him, you know what, I'm probably a little depressed too.
Mhm.
So he gave me the name. I went and met with this guy a few times, and at that point, it was after COVID, and I was kind of stuck to the house with three kids. My wife was healthcare, so she was gone, and I really started picking up my drinking and just staying up late and just really bad habits. And I was getting concerned, I'm drinking way too much. This is probably a problem. I need to go talk to someone. So met with this guy, and he's like, he pretty much told me problem is you're bored and you don't have the connections. You need to reconnect. You need to find some male community where you can connect and have a purpose. And so, kind of going through that and thinking about it, and everything just came together. Rocket was talking about, meeting all these new guys and how great it was, and the health aspect. And so, all those things combined kind of led me to join it.
That's really cool, and I appreciate you being vulnerable enough to share. That you went to see somebody, and I wish more people would do that sooner. I feel like I know
Yeah.
in my own life, right? I wait until I'm completely exhausted all of the things I think I can control before I go talk to somebody, and that has never worked, by the way. But
Yeah. Right
uh,
there with you. I'm Irish Catholic. We like to keep it in and bubble
yeah,
up until it explodes. So,
yeah.
pretty much at that point. So that's why I did it.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. So you show up to F3. The workout was really tough, but did you find some of those connections or kind of that camaraderie that you think maybe could have filled that void, or what was that process like to get to that point?
Yeah. You know, tell the truth, I don't really remember a ton of it. I think I
Yeah.
was so lightheaded and out of it. But I did enjoy just, you know, the banter between everyone, the bubble chatter.
Mhm.
I'm gonna try it again, um, and see where it goes. And tried Thursday, went to Futurama.
Yeah.
So started Monday at Ironwood, did Thursday at Futurama, and I think Devin Gordon might have been on the queue that day. And just remember going up to the walls and doing chicken peckers and these upside down things. I'm like, these guys are crazy. This is my last time out.
Yeah.
Hipster's right next to me, and a 70-year-old is kicking my butt, and I'm thinking I'm going to pass out again.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so, you know, after that, took the weekend off and stuff, and then I don't remember kind of where it went from there, but it kind of, thinking about it, in the moment I wanted to quit. Looking back at it, I really enjoyed that, and then so started. I think I hit it the next week, and then it kind of went from 0 to 100 pretty quick.
Mhm.
Kind of once I get stuck on something, I kind of go all out, and it wasn't long until I was posting 5 days a week.
Yeah. That's cool. Were you trying to keep in touch with Rocket and kind of post when he was posting, or did you quickly just sort of say, I'm going where where's closest to my house, or how'd you navigate that?
Yeah, I think first was keep in touch with Rocket. He said he is trying this spot and this spot, and we live really close to each other.
Yeah.
So that helped. And there's a lot. I mean, I'm in the Dundee area, so there's a ton of spots right here.
Hmm.
But then, he's like taking days off, like probably should. And so I was looking for the next spot, and
Hmm.
I, started first just going close to home. Um, then after a few months, it was expanding out and trying new spots. And for a while there, I was kind of traveling all over, just trying to see new places. And you'd see someone on the queue that you knew, where West Omaha. I'm like, might as well try it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, normal. I'm back now to kind of staying right around
Yeah.
that spot.
Yeah, it's fun, right? It's hard to sustain over time, like going, because if you got to drive 20, 30 minutes to a workout and you're doing that multiple days a week, then your sleep, I have tried to do that. And it's, I'm thankful nowadays we have a couple AOs that are just 10 minutes from my house, which has not always been the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I lived down like 80th, 78th and Pacific, I would run. There were a few AOs that were close enough that I could run to. So like Future was one of them, and the Woodshed was really close. And now there's no way I'm running from my house to an AO. But
I ran by your house. There's no way I'd be running out there either.
yeah, it's we're out here a ways, but what so I think it's really cool that you kind of mentioned this earlier, but you sort of got introduced to the group, then you kind of started going out and seeing some other guys, and now you're sort of situated. But you also kind of mentioned you've posted downrange before. Is that like work trip posted in another region, or talk me through that? Like
Yeah.
how long till you were comfortable doing that?
My wife is from St. Louis, so we go back and visit
Oh yeah.
a few times a year, and or they're kind of a little bit farther out, St. Charles area. So every time we're down there, I like to post. I mean, the first time was I think Thanksgiving morning, and it was
Okay.
a little weird, just kind of showing up. I was at a ruck site, did not know that. I had nothing with me. It was raining, but they were so welcoming, and then they invited me there playing uh, ultimate frisbee afterwards, and after that, I was kind of hooked. And kind of whenever we travel, if there's anywhere close, I will try to seek it out. Just
Yeah.
it's great. I mean, it's just great to meet all these new people, and
Yeah.
uh, it's amazing. Everywhere you go, everyone's just so welcoming and just happy to see you. And, it's a great feeling.
Yeah. Absolutely. I've done a few, and it's kind of depends where you like if you're traveling somewhere. I have noticed there's a few places that we have traveled where the AOs are not near like the touristy spot where we're staying,
Yeah.
and so then you're like, I don't know, can I convince my wife to let me take a 30-minute Uber to this workout tomorrow morning? But no, I love it. It's also we've had a couple other guys sort of mention this, but like the pandemic, right, was really this odd time for so many of us where we were like, it was locked down. You sort of there was some like forced isolation, and then coming out of that was sort of like a reintroduction to how we navigate life, almost in this really
Yeah.
sort of strange way. And so I love that you were able to get plugged into the group after that. I think one of my questions for you would be, do you feel like as you were building relationships with guys, like coffee, did that come into play, or pre-running? Or I know Beverly Hills, you've done some Q-Source stuff down there. So talk me through, like, were those things helpful along the journey too?
Yeah. It took me a little bit before I started doing coffee. And once you start doing that, that just adds a whole other dimension
Mhm.
to F3. And I try to do that as much as I can. Unless I have kids' things, I will hit that every time. And then pre-running, that took a lot longer to get into. As I said, I was very out of shape.
Yeah.
But I got connected. Another friend who's not, well, I guess he came one step three, but he hasn't been back. But he, once I started losing weight, it's like, hey, you should do a half marathon. And so, like, all right, to do that, I need to start running. So I'd kind of start, doing quarter mile, half mile
Mhm.
beforehand, and pulled a rocket into it to run it with me. So we started running together. Then, there's so many guys that were running that were like, hey, join us for this pre-run. And we kind of slowly built, Frosty was great at it. He would text us, and times I wasn't going to do it. Like, when you get the text from him, you're like, all right,
Yeah.
I'll go. And he would go at our pace. And, you know, definitely wasn't around before, but when I started the pre-run, I think that's where the relationships really started to build, where I really started to meet people and talk to them. Yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know really how to explain, but that's where you get the deep conversations, and
Yeah.
it's weird not having earphones and running. The few times I did run before, you're always listening to something and not have that with you. Even for like running by yourself, you're no earphones to kind of thinking to yourself and have that time to yourself. But it's just that early morning with other guys. I don't know why. Well, friend, why working out. You're just more open to each other, and
Yeah.
you have questions on your mind from the night before, and there's so many good people in the pre-running that been through a lot of the same stuff that you talk to. So that's kind of where the connections, like, were the deepest and start the strongest.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is sort of and I don't know, I'm sure somebody out there's done research on this and has a term that they call it, but when you get guys doing some sort of work together, like I'll notice, like when my father-in-law and I plant trees together, for some reason we talk about stuff that we would never talk about, and just like running next to a guy, for whatever reason, you just kind of start talking about stuff, and it's just this really cool way that I think guys bond over some sort of physical activity, kind of a mystery, but I think is definitely, I would agree with you that pre-run is where I found a ton of closer connections through the conversation there. Well, talk me through. So, we kind of bouncing between fitness and fellowship a little bit, but on this kind of fitness piece, like, are you down? I don't know. Talk us through that. Like, where are you at today? Do you feel like you've met a lot of those goals? You feel like you're where you want to be, or?
Yeah, I'm definitely, compared to where I started in F3. I'm in so much better shape. Not only with the fitness but the mental health. And I probably lost 30 some pounds since I started.
Nice.
And I'm doing things now where um, did not think, I could. Someone asked me, you want to go run a half marathon tomorrow? I could do that, which I never thought would be something. I mean, I'm going to run it really slow and I'm going to do it at my
Yeah.
pace, but I could finish it, which is something which did not compute to me, before
Yeah.
F3. So I feel like I'm in pretty good shape. And I think somewhat similar to you, like, all right, I'm in the shape, but what's the next goal? So, I'm always kind of pushing for the next thing. Sometimes it's hard to be grateful for where I am and where I've come from. But it's also a good thing to have those future goals. So, yeah, so I'd say I'm happy with my fitness, but um, not there yet.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I mean, losing 30 pounds and, just hearing, I'm assuming you're able to play football with your kids now, right? If they're playing out in the yard, right? You can probably run circles around them now, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're starting to get a little bit faster, but I can definitely outlast them now. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
great.
That's a really great feeling, I think. Well, talk us through that from a family perspective. So, we think about, the fellowship piece, right? We also think about like the concentrica and some of the relationships that are closest to you. So like you and your wife, your relationship there, and then would love to know like how many kids you have, and then have you brought them out to any 2.0 workouts? That's always a fun question.
Yeah. We'll start with the kids thing. Yeah, I have 3 daughters.
Oh, okay. Same.
So yeah. So mine are 10, 8, and 5. I think I've brought out one to a couple of them. At Boys Town, just one of the family ones. But it's hard to get them out, and I don't post too much on Saturdays, anyways. Um, I would love to do that more with them because I know she had a blast. I think her F3 name was maybe Monkey. I think she was climbing around everywhere at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the relationship though, prior to F3 compared to where it is now, was, probably just go back to COVID. I was at home with 3 kids trying to work full time, and it was really busy time for us at work. My wife was in healthcare. We were both just really stressed out and didn't really have any outlets because she'd come home, I'm stressed, she'd be stressed.
Yeah.
And that's probably unfair to the kids too, that they had to stay home with me all day in the first place. And second of all, I was stressed, so I wasn't the best person to be around at those times. And they are, my family's the most important thing to me. So it was, kind of the relationship after joining F3. I'd come home in the morning, when they wake up, and I was actually a happy person and someone they'd want to be around. And same with my wife. It was, I wasn't quite sure once I started going 5 days a week of how long that'd be acceptable.
Yeah.
Because it's stressful on her. Kid wakes up. I'm sure you've been through it. The kid wakes up after you leave. It's all on her. But I think the results of the person I was becoming, the people I was hanging out with, she's 100% into it, and letting me do it. So family's always been really important to me. But I think after joining F3 and learning from other guys and just being a happy person myself, the bonds have built a lot more with them, and we just have, we had a good relationship before, but I think it's just so much better now.
Yeah. Yeah, I love hearing that, and it's it's funny, like I've got 3 girls as well, and the oldest one is 9, right? So kind of different end of the spectrum. But she was at a Father's Day workout one time and just said, "Dad, I only come to these for you." And it was at that moment we decided, like, we're okay with them not coming to the to the workouts. We'll see if the other 2 as they get older are interested in that, but makes it a little bit tougher, right, to get them out. But the relationship thing, there's just something, it probably goes back to, you've got this space where you can talk about stuff with other guys, and then you get home and that stuff you're not bottling that up, right? And so now you're ready to approach your family and give them, some of your best, mentally, spiritually, whatever that might be. So I think that's really cool. What, in terms of your relationship with your wife, have you noticed any difference there? You feel like, obviously we're out of COVID now several years, so you don't have that, but do you feel like your relationship has changed at all? Any influence from F3 in that space?
Yeah, I would say for sure. Once you go work out in the morning, kind of get all that stress out that you maybe built up the night before or whenever, and you come home a better person, and that has been so much better to the relationship. I'm more conversational, I guess. I'm not, when I'm angry, I just kind of keep to myself and don't say a word, and that doesn't really solve any problems. And after getting the release in the morning, be able to come home a happy person, ready to, I've already started my day, I'm ready to go. It just makes the rest of the day so much better, and has helped that relationship. Just, you start on a higher level, it just makes everything better, I guess.
If you start your day with a better mindset, I think you're able to be in that relationship, in a different way, which I think is awesome. Are you or someone you know in the market to buy a new home? Well, if so, check out Major Team Mortgage. They specialize in home purchase and refinance home loans. Their mission is to purposely empower people to experience their good life through building wealth with real estate. Showing up in the gloom is no different than showing up for a conversation around your future of building wealth with real estate. Join the action economy and get in the game with Sasquatch. Text or call John at 402-212-0149 to schedule a time today. Individual NMLS number 1393750. Company NMLS number 2478164. Equal housing lender. The other question I would have for you is, you're thinking about kind of this journey, fitness, fellowship, faith, and it's so interesting how these things all intertwine. But I think you went to Creighton Prep, right? So Catholic high school. But talk us through kind of your journey from a third F perspective. What's that been like throughout your life?
Yeah, so I did the Catholic grade school, Catholic high school, went to Creighton, so I hit all the Catholic schools throughout my educational career. Younger, very involved in a lot of stuff. Did the altar boy choir, um, the teen stuff. My parents were involved, especially my mom. Helped out a lot at the church and took us every Sunday and did all the special events. And um, so, very, I guess, growing up, um, I would say hardcore, but we were very into the church. My dad actually worked at a Catholic high school too, so
Nice.
kind of had everything. Then, when I started in high school, kind of learning more about my faith and about the church and everything, and that continued to college. It's funny, you pay all this money to go to this Catholic Jesuit school, and they make you question everything. So the opposite. And so, through there, start kind of questioning everything, and I wouldn't say losing my faith, but not as into the whole religion aspect of it. I mean, the organized part of it.
Yeah.
Then, kind of college kept going down. Then, I stopped going to church. I did a little bit in college, and then kind of after college, stopped doing the church thing, and just really never got back into it. I think I was always spiritual. I enjoyed, reading books about not only being a Catholic, reading Catholic stuff, but just different faiths and different religions, and kind of seeing the connections and kind of the you know these shared beliefs that they all had, and kind of connecting those. But never really got back into the church thing, and we're sending our kids to Catholic schools, so kind of feel like I should be starting to get more back into it.
Sure.
Just haven't got there yet. But then, I'd say, prior to F3, just, spiritual, but wasn't thinking much about it. Then you meet these guys in F3 that talk to you, and you see their faith, and uh, it has helped me question things more, where before I just stopped thinking about it in general.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of looking more into myself and kind of figuring out what I actually believe in, what are my goals with my religion. And I have guys to talk to about that have, a lot of them have been through
Yeah.
non-believing, believing. There's all sorts of people. There's so many different resources to talk to. So it's, I think the journey, I've been in for a few years to F3, the journey, especially recently, has kind of been evolving, and I really have no idea where it's going to go, but
Yeah.
I'm excited to find out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so cool. And I think that story resonates, I think, with a lot of guys in our area. And I would imagine across F3 Nation, right? Where there's some sort of structure or something that maybe your folks had you participate in as you're growing up, and then just, as life sort of comes at you. And I think sounds like you're in this really good spot where you're questioning again in a really healthy way, to really figure out, like, the Q source talks about the what, right? So what do I believe, and what does that mean about how I live my life today? It's what happens when you die, and what does that mean about how I live my life today? And I think just creating space for guys to process those sorts of things with no judgment and nobody trying to push an agenda. I mean, it just is like, I know there are probably churches that say they would offer that space, but they're not really.
Yeah.
So I love that we have this space, because I think you're in this normal, like completely normal space where you're like trying to find your faith and figure out what it looks like to you. And I think if we don't have space for guys to do that, then they don't do it, and I think it just sort of is it's cool. So I think I don't know, do you feel like, do you feel any sort of way about that? Like, because I didn't grow up going to church. I got introduced later in life, but I've sort of wondered if this has been your journey. Do you feel so, like, I don't know if Catholic guilt is even a PC term for me to use, but
I was going to mention it anyway, so no, I feel good. Yeah, no, I think, after so many years of the structured religion and teaching and the negative stuff about it, in my opinion, the stuff that I saw, mostly the Catholic guilt, kind of added on, and to a point where it's like, oh, I really don't want to deal with this anymore. And it's probably a good thing. Kind of hitting a low point in faith. I think it will probably, you read a book about any saint, you're gonna, that's where the story begins, is when they hit their low point. And so, I feel, right now, like, I had all those negative emotions connected to it. You know, some of the churches I've been to, some of the priests I've been to, I did not agree with, and there's a lot of that Catholic guilt through school. And as a parent, my parents are great, but it's a lot easier. I mean, once Santa's gone, Catholic guilt's really easy way to control your kids. And I try not to do too much, but it's definitely a good tool when you need it. But sorry, back to what I was talking about.
I like that.
I had all this negative emotions tied to it, and kind of, at a point where, like, if I take those off, where am I? Like, if I can remove those emotions, because most of them probably aren't true, even though that's how I felt at the time. And that makes me look at religion and faith a whole lot different than kind of where I was. And I don't think I would have got there without, talking to, there's some great guys in F3 that aren't pushing anything. It's just seeing their faith and their belief and their journey. Kind of makes you reassess why you thought that way, and kind of dig deep to see what you actually know or believe.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, I think it's really cool. And we've had some guys that, F3 is sort of serving as their current kind of church community, or whatever you want to call it, because of the COTs and the prayers and and I think, I don't know, to me, there's just so much that, I don't know, guys have a lot of opportunity to develop or sort of process their thoughts in this third F space. The other kind of component of the third F, in my mind, we kind of split it in two, right? It's like the spiritual component, and then there's also kind of the more of like the community service, or I don't know, I even think about, like, Sputnik, and just lifting up our brothers in prayers, and just would be curious your thoughts on sort of that aspect of the third F. What's been your experience with that?
Yeah. I think it is amazing. Just kind of, oh man, that F3 community. It's just the constant contact and the people. Not how to look at prayers. It's just telling people how they feel about somebody, especially when people are going through a hard time, and just letting them know that they're there. It is kind of, I mean, it is amazing. I don't think that's normal. There might be, a few people might be blessed with friends like that, but I know most people part of F3 don't have that connection with other people that they know will have their back and that are praying for them and are there for them no matter what, especially when they're going through hard times. I had a moment too where I was on a trip and something happened on the trip, and woke up in the morning and, I just had all these guys reaching out to me, asking how I was, and they've been praying for me and stuff like that. And tell you that I had no idea what was happening. And it, it, it just feels amazing to know you're part of something bigger than just yourself and just your friend group, just your family. Like there's something so much bigger. And I think that kind of bleeds in like to your faith life. Like all these people can are together for this one common goal, help each other out. Like there's something bigger than that that's kind of controlling that. So I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, that's
totally.
kind of where I'm at.
What do you mind me asking? What happened when you were out of town, or what was that situation? You mind providing more details?
Yeah, kind of left you a cliffhanger on that one.
You're good.
No,
I'm just curious.
No, a friend and I went down to the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans on New Year's Eve, and that's when they had the terrorist attacks down there. And we had kind of left, you know, not too long before those happened, but we were in bed by the time it happened, and kind of wake up in the morning at the hotel room, have all these missed calls and texts, and all these brothers I had seen on TV before.
Yeah.
I knew what was going on. It didn't really hit me at the time. Like I appreciated it, but like afterwards, like man, if I wasn't part of Step 3 group, I would have a few of the calls, a few of the texts. But it's just amazing to know like all those people that actually care about you and want to make sure you're safe and are praying for you. That's something I never thought.
Yeah. That's really
Back,
cool. Especially something like that where, somebody saw the news, they knew you were there, and then they just lifted it up like, hey, we should pray for Good Lookin who's down at the whatever, and then all of a sudden you get these texts, it's it's amazing how that happens.
I talked to one, I'm like, oh, I already heard you're okay. I'm like, well, I never talked to you. And, they're texting to other people and stuff. And it's just like that network is amazing. If you actually need it, those people are there for you, which is great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Well, I think the other piece of this too that we'd love to hear your journey on is the leadership side. So, right, our mission, Plant Grow Serve small workout groups for men for the Invigoration Male Community Leadership, right? And so we do that with like your VQ, or we give you a chance to be a site Q, all of that sort of stuff. So I don't know if you remember your VQ, but would love to hear any stories you're willing to share from that.
Yeah, I don't remember it too much. I did it at Beverly Hills. I think it's maybe 3 or 4 months after I started. One of the early guys that I met in F3 that was really motivating and kind of pushed me and was always communicating with me was Rancid, and he was the site Q, and he started Beverly. So he got me to VQ down there. And to tell you the truth, I, like most guys, probably up all night. And just nervous for, really no good reason to be nervous. I had everything written down. Come in and just read everything off these cards. And, tell the truth, I don't remember the workout. I remember like feeling the relief when it was over and how cool it was. Like going to coffee afterwards and just, because the refill's gone, or just how welcoming everyone was and excited that I got them through it. And there's a few people that couldn't make it. And, the night before I wasn't expecting it. And I didn't even know, like I used to work with Tater, and as I said, I do sparring before, and I remember this, I got text from him the night before, like, sorry, we can't make it. And I'm like thinking about you, praying for you. And it's like, that's really cool. I did not really know VQ was a big thing, and didn't know they had my phone number. And it's just cool to hear from them. And there's a few other people just tell you good luck. And, that's kind of what I remember about the VQ.
Yeah, it's funny. And at that time, I suppose, depending on when you did it, right, we didn't really have PaxNet. So there was like this secret spreadsheet that I don't know if everybody knew.
Had no idea it existed. till later. So,
Yeah, you're kind of like, how did you get my phone number? Yeah, that's funny. Now with PaxNet, right? It's obviously we know where you get it, but
you guys have done a great job with that, by the way. That thing's amazing.
oh yeah, well, it's all iMac, and I don't, I haven't really done a whole lot with that. I mean, it's you've got this guy who's a developer who's willing to help, and he's just, yeah, it's been really cool to watch that thing grow, and it's such a cool tool. We're hoping someday to get it out, so it's available across F3 Nation, but there's a lot of factors there. But the question I'd have for you about your VQ. So once it was over, I mean, so we're kind of in a way like using that event or activity as a way to, I don't know, I think sometimes we use it to show you that you have what it takes to lead a group of men, right? Sort of as like a confidence builder. Did it do that for you, or what was sort of the result of that, or how'd you feel after that?
Probably not. I think it took a couple more cues before I really got the confidence. I'm not one for being speaking in front of big groups. It's part of the Catholic guilt. I don't like the attention on me. So
Yep.
it really did take a while to, that was definitely the first step. Once I got through it, I felt good about it, but wasn't quite there. It took a while before, a couple more cues before I was comfortable in that position role.
Yeah.
And before I started seeking it. And I don't know if it was just adding on, doing it multiple times that did it, or something switched where like I went from trying to stay away from doing it and to wanting to be that leader and to be in charge of those workouts. I'm not quite sure what it was, but it seemed like it did switch at some point where wasn't really scared about it, was excited to do it, wanted to be there for other guys that needed cues. But yeah, it's definitely was an instant for me.
Yeah.
I'm amazed what people it was for, but not for me.
Yeah, I think that's important to call out, right? Because I think just the way we're all built differently, and whatever your experience has been up to that, I do think there are a lot of guys, right, that you get them to do their VQ, but then you almost have to like EH them or convince them again to do a second Q, right? Because it's not everybody is comfortable with that, but I'm glad you were able to get back after it. I would be curious, if you ever figure out what it was that kind of like flipped that switch. I would love to, report back to us, because I think I've seen that happen in a couple guys, and you just kind of are like, oh, okay, something is different, this time. But
I actually had a second VQ too, Ironwood.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't think whoever's posting the schedule, I don't think they realized that I had already done my VQ. So I had a bunch of these people come out to my second Q.
Nice.
Are very excited for my VQ, and I think that one went a little bit better than the first one. So
nice. You got to redo. That is funny.
So I guess leadership was a little bit better. I did learn some of that from VQs.
That's the real reason we built PaxNet, was so you couldn't have two VQs, right? Because now we've got it on record. No, that's funny. What well, talk us through. So so obviously, and I think most guys listening would know Sputnik and a little bit about his story. Still working on getting him on here for his interview, but what was that like, kind of getting that flag, right? Not your traditional shovel flag pass or succession planning, but talk us through that sort of experience. And then what was it like to lead at Beverly Hills?
Yeah. So might have mentioned before, but I knew Sputnik from high school. We weren't good friends, but we were acquaintances. So I'd known him. So when we started doing F3 together, it was one of those connections that you already had. So we came closer at that point. And I was doing Beverly Hills a lot, but I was also at the same time starting to get into running a little bit more, and kind of going to other running sites. So I was kind of actually doing Beverly Hills less and less, but I remember getting a call, or he texted me and I called him back, Sputnik and just kind of sharing the news that he got. And, I'll let him definitely tell the story when you get him on. But pretty much saying, he had a lot on his plate and he asked if I could do it. And there really, there really was only one answer. Like, didn't even think about it. It's whatever you need. At the time, I thought, I'm just a placeholder until he kind of gets through his stuff, and I'll come take it back. But he was going through a lot, and felt really bad for him. And so, the flag pass, he I actually didn't know we were doing it. I had talked to him, and obviously he had a ton on his plate, and that's kind of the last thing at the top of his mind. But he was going to tell everyone in the group about the condition, and so it was at Cornhusker handicap, and so he told me he was going to be there, so I showed up, and then I don't know if he planned it beforehand or whatnot, but we did the Beverly flag pass at Cornhusker handicap, and he, even with all the stuff going on, he gave me the rundown and helped out getting it started. And then there was also a lot of other guys that jumped in. Polaroid was amazing. He does it for a lot of people, kind of getting a connection to everything and helping out with that way. But yeah, then kind of once we took it over, Beverly's a different site. It's a great site. It's probably a smaller site compared to a lot of places, but we got some really good people there, some neighborhood people and some other people that just join a lot. And it was kind of challenging in the beginning, kind of taking that over. Didn't feel like I really knew what I was getting myself into, and it really isn't that much. But I kind of have a problem of overanalyzing stuff and not doing things. So like, it's a really easy job. All you need to do is ask people to queue and post something on Twitter. Well, like, I don't know if I should ask this person, and the tweets took way too long to do. So I don't know why I made it so hard in the beginning. But that's kind of one of the great things about taking over a site is you kind of learn by fire that like this is not a big deal. Like, this shouldn't be that hard, and you learn these great leadership skills of being able just to the easiest thing in the world you'd think is just asking someone to queue. Like, there's not a lot of people that say no or just because they don't want to do it. I mean, some people have reasons they can't, but everyone's very open to doing it. And a post on Twitter or X or whatever it is now, it should not take up that much space in your brain. Like, they don't end up funny like I meant them to be. So like, I don't want to let that take it over. But kind of growth leading the site is kind of
That's awesome. It's so cool to hear, just hear you talk through that. Cause I think, and just to clarify, when you say a smaller site, you're thinking like in terms of number of guys that post, right? I do think it's interesting, right? Cause what we always say is like, if the site's serving, I don't know, right. The mission says small workout groups for men, right? And so like there's really no requirement for how many guys need to be posting at a site, right? If you got 2 guys, like that's and so I think it's easy to look across all the other AOs and sites and think like, well, I didn't have as many, but I think a lot of the site queue role, you kind of go through evaluating like, what is my role? What's the purpose of this site? And we've heard a lot of guys over the years talk through this, like just process, right? You think you're getting the site and you're going to make it huge and make everybody come. And then you realize like, well, that's not really what it's about anyway, So I love that you had that experience, and I'm right there with you. I have always had dreams of being funny, and I'm just not, so it's like, I don't know. I'll just post whatever I'm going to post. And if people show up, they're going to show up. And if they don't, they won't, but I love that. Cause I'm an overanalyzer as well. And in the early days, I remember thinking like, I got to make mine as funny as wait times or whatever, or, I don't know. And so that's good.
We'll just care who's queuing that day. I don't care what the site queue has to say.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, for sure. Well, I think the other piece where we like to get your thoughts on this is, so you've already shared a couple like lessons learned, but any other advice you would have for guys if they're taking over a site or thinking about taking over a site? What should they be thinking of as they get into that?
I think it really is an easy job. You can make it as hard as you want, but it really doesn't need to be. So I think, especially people thinking about it, I think a lot of people think it's going to be a huge time commitment and they're kind of scared for taking that responsibility. It definitely doesn't need to be. And all these sites and the main leadership all the way down has been set up great where it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's plug and play, like everyone brings their own spice to it, but it's really hard to mess up. Like, just be there for the people. The hardest thing for some people like me is just asking people to queue or something, which when you think about it's really the easiest thing. So I don't know, just talking to a few people that have been looking, kind of wavering about, like, I don't know if I can do a side queue or something. Just do it. Like, it forces you to meet new people to get those new queues down there. So you're not just kind of stuck with the same people. It forces you to ask people you don't know to do something, which no one's really going to say no to. So it's really not a hard ask, but just kind of, it puts you in a different situation to meet these people. And it's really not that hard. So just do it.
I love it. One final thing on the site queue piece, talk us through succession planning. How did you kind of find your future successor, and then talk us through the shovel pass? How did that go?
Yeah, it was actually really easy because I remember when Sputnik called me to ask me to take it over for him. I'm like, man, this Bambi guy's been showing up every week and he lives right down the street. Like, he should be asking him. I guess he's newer or whatnot. So I actually, before I even took the flag, I knew I was going to pass it to.
Nice.
And I gave it maybe a month or two before I started really talking him into it. I didn't want someone else to take him. And it was just kind of, he had some stuff going on with work and growing his business, and it was just kind of kept tripping on his ear. I'm like, when you're ready, it's all yours. I didn't go the whole year. When he said he was ready to take it, I passed it off to him.
Nice.
And the fog pass, if you've never been to a Bambi workout, you need to try one at some time because he is creative. He comes up with a whole bunch of different stuff that you don't do anywhere else. RC cars come into play every once in a while, scooters. So the flag pass, he had an idea and kind of, you go with it. You tell me what to do. And at that point, he's made to be the leader for this place because he was on top of it and he was ready to go and excited and everything. So it was a really cool moment. Kind of passing a guy that knew that this was his spot. I was just kind of a placeholder for him, and kind of seeing where he's taken it since. Really great person, and it's a cool day for sure.
Yeah. I love it. I have not, I don't think I was able to make it there for the shovel pass and have not been to a Bambi workout, but I definitely want to, now that you've sold me, I need to get down there and try one. When you say RC cars, what is that, an exercise or what is that?
No, like the remote control cars.
Oh, okay.
See you have some races with them so you can jump theirs the farthest. I mean, he builds these too, so they're like legit.
Awesome. That sounds awesome. Okay.
I think he has a Bambi deer decoy that I think I know he's used a few workouts too. So
awesome.
Definitely something different. Definitely.
Heck yeah. Okay. I'm gonna add that to my list of places to go here soon. Well, I love it. And this has been really great. I just appreciate you taking time to come and share your story. I think the guys listening hopefully will just resonate with what you said. I think a lot of what you shared is just really raw and real, and just your journey. And I just appreciate that so much, to be able to share that with other guys out there. So we'll do a little Namerama here to wrap us up. I'll start us off. Brandon Flehardy. Wait a minute. Sorry. One thing. Where do you, something I can't forget to ask you this, but
Yeah.
where do you currently need prayers and support or encouragement? That's kind of becoming one of our most favorite questions. So where are you at today? Where do you need support and encouragement?
I appreciate all the people, all the guys in the morning that are open and ask the questions every day. Like, what do you need? What's going on in your life? So every day it's different. Something going on with the kids, something going on with the wife. Like, there's luckily nothing huge right now that I need it. But if I encourage people, not only to me but to everyone else, just ask those questions and do the support then when the people need it at the time. So
Yeah.
I can always use prayers
Yeah.
every day, but I appreciate the people asking the questions. I urge them to continue doing that.
Heck yeah. Awesome. All right. Now we can do a little Namerama. Brandon Flehardy, 39, The Plague.
Yeah. Brian Miller, 39. Good looking.
Good looking. And has anybody created a call sign, or they whistle maybe?
I get a lot of whistles. Yep.
Get a lot of whistles, both in the gloom and out in the wild, right?
Yep. That's right.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks so much, Plague.
Have a good one.
Definitely appreciate it. You too.